Yo, this is Mephux. You're tuned into the Renaissance Show. Enjoy the show.
All right, so you guys are now tuned in to the Renaissance Show. My name is Alex Kuchma, and I have here with me yet another very special guest, one of the better kind of producers, beat makers in the scene over the last few years. The dude's just been dropping like amazing projects, one after another, projects with Flea Lord, projects with G4 Jag, and a brand new project with JNX. Man, what's good, me fucks?
Hey, how's it going?
Man, everything's good on my end here. It's a pleasure to be able to have you on the line. Like I said, this new album that you have out with JNX, it's one of my favorite albums so far this year. It's really perfect, man. I tuned into the first single and it was Glory, and I watched the music video for it, and really I was attracted to the single because of Lord Mobb, and because of Your Name. I hadn't heard of JNX prior at all, and that single was so different from what I typically hear from Lord Mobb. It had a little bit more of kind of a trappy type appeal, maybe. I don't know if that's the best word to kind of describe it, but it was also a little bit on a lighter note, and it was more positive, and it was, I don't know, it was lighter and not something that, again, I would typically end up hearing from Lord Mobb and from that whole kind of collective. But I loved it. I thought it was great, and I was so stoked to hear the album because it was different production than you're typically kind of associated with, at least that I associate you with. And going back and checking out older JNX material as well, the dude is an incredible artist. He's an incredible vocalist to a degree. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not like trained in music to some degree, so I can't speak about like range and shit like that. But he has a soul to him when he sings that I really really fuck with. And then as a rapper, when he actually wants to spit and put bar after bar after bar, the dude's really really dope. And then hearing this album, it doesn't necessarily stick with the Glory theme. It goes into different directions, and you experiment a lot on this album, and I love it. But yeah, man, this album. Congratulations on the success of this album, and thank you for putting out this art into the world because I appreciate it. It's heavy rotation, and it's going to be throughout the end of the year for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Really appreciate that. Yeah, the crazy thing about Jamil, like, is like this is the first album that he's done that he hasn't produced himself. So everything that he's done in the past, like all of his other like previous music that you can find on Spotify and Apple Music, that was all produced by him. And he
Yeah,
even did the art. He did the artwork for Viktor too. So he's super multi-talented. I think he even shoots his own music videos as well.
so how did you end up getting in contact with him? Because he was new to the, I guess, Lord Mobb roster, and I'm not sure, is he considered Lord Mobb as of now?
Yeah, he's signed to Lord Mobb. He's a Lord Mobb artist. We found him through a friend, Doe, who's part of Lord Mobb as well. But Doe had connections and like knew this guy in New Orleans, and was like, hey, like you should really check him out. I didn't hear any like actual music from him before I sent him a beat, but I sent him the first beat and he sent it back, and I was just like, wow, like this guy's got a lot of talent.
What was the first beat
And
that you ended up sending him?
what was that? Let me see. It was either Guns or it was Winning, the one that Flea's on. I think it was the one that Flea's on.
Man, the whole album is great, but yeah, Flea Lord's on there, Ito is on there, Rock Marciano is on there. Everything that kind of comes together for this album, like I said, it's really kind of eclectic. There's a lot of different sounds on here. You have something like 9/11, which has almost kind of this narrative instrumental to a degree. Like, it's weird to characterize a beat as kind of narratively focused, but it just, when as soon as that beat comes on, you can tell you're about to hear a story, and there's going to be, yeah, some sort of narrative flowing throughout this track. And then you have tracks like Glory that I already mentioned, that's kind of on the lighter note. And then, yeah, you have shit that's like the track with Flea Lord and the track with Ito. Like, those are pretty like dark and sinister beats in a lot of ways, and that's kind of what I would typically associate with Lord Mobb in general. But yeah, this album just ends up being this kind of eclectic, I don't know, like beautiful landscape and the showcasing of who JNX is. Because I've went back now and I listened to his previous material while I was waiting for this new album, Viktor, to come out, and I love a lot of the material that Jamil was putting out, but this album, I think, really kind of showcases what he has to offer, at least in terms of, yeah, what he has to offer as a hip hop artist. And I think, I don't know what his kind of fan base is prior to this, but I do hope that this introduces more people to Jamil as an artist, and I think it's a great introduction at that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I hope for the same thing. He's super talented, and he's very versatile. Like, and I think with that album, that's one of the things that you take away from listening to it, is that, you know, he's just extremely versatile. So
Yeah,
he can rap over pretty much any style of beat. And there's no, I don't know, I never really like sit down and say like, oh, I'm gonna make an album, like here's the theme of it. Like, it's more of just like, it took forever because like I make all the beats that I do for a project, you know, for those artists, like specifically.
sure.
um you know, I don't usually have like a beat pack. um I just usually, like, you know, approach it that way. But anyway, so we sat down, like I was lucky enough to have him come up to my studio in Boston, and we sat down and worked on all the tracks, and, you know, recorded a lot of it there. So I think a lot of the reason why it turned out the way that it turned out was just because there was like a lot of collaboration that went on to making most of the songs.
Gotcha. So I've spoken to a number of different people that are associated with Lord Mobb in the past, and we kind of spoke about this very briefly before we started recording. But things like, or artists like G4 Jag and Akil Ali and Ito, I've had conversations with, but not for this Renaissance show. You're the first member of Lord Mobb that I've spoken to for the Renaissance show, so I wanted to give a little bit of a background on, I guess, your relationship with Lord Mobb and Lord Mobb as a whole. But for those listening at home, how did you end up getting involved in Lord Mobb?
So, oh man, and this must have been like 2 years ago. I was doing some business with Conway, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the Traumatic Conway collaboration album. But for anybody that's listening that likes Conway the Machine, like if you haven't heard the Traumatic Premium Goods Conway album, it's like one of the best in my opinion. Not to, I'm biased because like I have two beats on there, but
Fair enough. Fair enough.
uh it's like he truly like did a good job. Conway did a good job on that project, so like people should check that out. But anyways, I was working with Conway on that project, and we went to a show Conway was doing in Boston, and I was just chilling backstage, and this guy started talking to me, and I was like, oh shit, like, you know, I think this is like the dude who did Rock America, because that's like right when the first Rock America came out.
Was it
But like
Flea
for
or
the
was it Ito?
it was Flea, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
like, and like I had no idea, like for I just like I never it just didn't connect the two, like, you know. So I was talking to him, I was just like, oh, this is just like, you know, someone chilling here that's like, you know, maybe part of Griselda, or like, you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, like I was just, you know, chopping it up, and started talking about business and stuff like that. And then I found out, like, that it was Flea. And and I loved the project that he did with Ito that came out, Rock America. So
So
I was
good.
like, hey, like, like, let's, like, while you're in Boston, like, do you want to, like, come to my studio and, like, let's do a track? And he's like, yeah, bet, like, for sure. So we worked out, like, the logistics of that, and he stopped by and we did the first track, which was Steppers. And then Conway ended up getting on that track as well. And then we used that for the first Pray for the Evil record that we did. But after that, talking to Flea, we just started to, like, work more and more together. So we accumulated enough work where we were like, all right, let's put out Pray for the Evil. Um, and then we started, essentially working on, like, a way to grow it from a business perspective. So that's where Lord Mobb came into play. Flea's my business partner in Lord Mobb. And we just, focus on early talent. We focus on, actually, like, every part of the spectrum of I guess maturity as far as that's concerned. Like, we take on like, whether they're, like, well-known artists, or not so well known. But it's more about just, like, what we hear and what we like and what we like to hear. And that's kind of how we pick the people that we've signed so far.
Gotcha. So 2 years ago, so 2019 ish. That's kind of, at least for me, that was kind of the start of when I started hearing a lot of those kind of, I don't know, when I started hearing that brand, Lord Mobb, kind of start to take shape. And it
Yeah.
was with artists like G4 Jag and Akil Ali and some of these kind of earlier artists. When you started having those conversations with Flea Lord, what was the scope of Lord Mobb at that period of time? Was it kind of in its infancy stages, or was it already kind of a well-established thing that you signed on to?
No. It was, we Flea and myself, like, we put that together in H. So Flea, myself, and H
Okay.
uh put that together, and set that up. Man, I can't remember how long ago that was, but yes, maybe like a year and a half ago, or like maybe like 2 years ago.
Man, what you guys have been able to build as Lord Mob, as kind of, yeah, as a brand, as a collective, is like unreal. The amount of music that's coming out of this new wave, this new Renaissance period that we're seeing ourselves in over the last few years is astonishing in of itself. But within this, you end up having these kind of larger collectives. Let it be Griselda, let it be Decloth, let it be Trust, things like Black Soprano Family or Drumwork now. But I think, like, definitely within that conversation is Lord Mob, and the roster that you guys have been able to kind of curate and put together speaks for itself. But like, you guys got this shit on lock in terms of this underground rap scene over the last few years, and it's so commendable. But the quality control over the work that you guys put out, like, there's an understanding and there's a confidence going into every project that it's going to be dope, right? Like, you guys are able to offer pre-order links and sell pre-orders because fans know that the shit is going to be dope right off the bat, right? No need to hear the music first. It's going to be fire. Yeah, what you guys have been able to do with Lord Mobb, I can't speak highly enough. To me, it stands right up there with the other clicks like your Trust or Griselda, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we definitely see it that way for sure. Just because of, like, the type of artists that we have signed to the label. Um and we're doing great numbers, like, so yeah, we have a lot of stuff in the works. We still have a lot of growing to do. Like, there's there's things that we're dabbling in, like vinyl printing and starting to do that in house. So outside of the music, there's other things that we're starting to get into as far as like the whole like record distribution, um I guess,
aspect of it. Yeah,
yeah,
talk about that a little bit, because I seen Instagram posts anyways a few months back, and I think it was Flea Lord and DJ Muggs that ended up going in on equipment. Can you speak on that to some degree? Like, what ended up happening with that? Is that solidified? Is that done?
so well, DJ Muggs like purchased some vinyl pressing equipment, and it's just like coincidental, we like, purchased one from a different company, around the same time frame, so like we just like announced it like coincidentally on like the same day.
Gotcha, but they're two separate incidents.
Yeah, yeah. So and like ours is mostly just because of like we've been dealing with so many headaches with the vinyl acquisition for Lord Mobb. Like just getting like anything pressed is like, super difficult at the moment. So um in a timely fashion at least. So it just made sense logically to us start doing that in house.
That's such a major move in order to go out and just buy the record plant, essentially, right? Or at least buy the equipment needed in order to do so. And I feel like the benefits of that would be amazing. Like, you look at some of these releases and you guys are able to sell 500 units, 1,000 units in cases, and sell them relatively quickly, and again with confidence. You know that the people are going to end up buying the record if you end up putting it out. But yeah, the wait times are crazy. I imagine the manufacturing costs are way reduced. Speak
Yeah.
about, I guess, some of the benefits. Like, are you guys putting out an album and now being able to press it yourselves in a room within like a day? Like, is that the type of shit that we're talking about? You guys just have to buy, like, is it raw? Like, what is it? I guess it's a vinyl record, but what is the actual material? Is it
It's just like these little, it's like a huge bag of these little plastic cubes. And you can buy these plastic cubes in all different types of colors. And then what you do is you pour these plastic cubes into the machine, and the machine can actually do, I think it's what is it, 1100 vinyls in 8 hours, I think is what the machine can do.
That's
um
amazing.
so the cool thing is it can do solid colors, it can do splatters, it can do picture disc, it can do pretty much everything that you would expect from most, vinyl pressing companies. But we actually like recently even decided that we're not going to even do like CDs anymore, as far as physical merch is concerned.
Yeah, like, in a way, I understand that, for, I guess, for two reasons. One, I think business wise it kind of makes sense in the fact that, well, you guys have the equipment now in order to press vinyl, but not necessarily the equipment in order to press like manufactured CDs. Like, there's a difference between CDRs and CDs, and I imagine it would still be extremely expensive to buy more equipment to do CD runs. But also, this whole movement that we're talking about, and I think your customer base, in a lot of ways, they're they're kind of identifying this movement with vinyl. I think what you guys have been able to do over the last few years, and not just yourself, but people like Griselda and whatnot in general, have really kind of identified this movement with the vinyl record. And I've talked about this previous episodes as well, but I think I think specific moments in hip hop often get kind of defined by a particular aesthetic, and a particular physical medium, I think, often comes with that. So, like, for example, if you're buying or interested in collecting Memphis rap from the early 2000s, you're gonna buy it on tape, because the cassette was so synonymous with that movement at that period of time. And I think it's the same thing if you look at like underground Bay Area tapes of the 90s. So things like I don't know, like the Grouch and Eli and Mystic Journeyman and all that kind of shit. Like if you're into buying that kind of stuff, you're gonna buy it on tape, because again, it's just kind of synonymous with that movement. If you're into buying like disco rap records of the late 80s, you're gonna be buying those 12-inch singles. You're not gonna be buying remastered CDs of them, because that's what kind of spoke of that movement. And I feel like over the last 5-6 years, when we talk about artists like Griselda, Lord Mobb, Trust, all these guys, this new movement has something associated with it as well. And I think it's the vinyl record. I think it's the way that you guys are actually producing the vinyl record is just drastically different, right? You have the OB strips, you have the attention to detail. It's treated like an art piece. The kind of limited runs, priced high, limited runs. It's kind of a different marketing way of doing things. You have things like test pressings. Like you couldn't buy a test pressing of a Mobb Deep record in the 90s. It was just impossible to do that. The way you guys are doing it is unique, and I think you guys have created an identity with this movement, with the vinyl record. So I think it makes sense anyway to just focus on vinyl. Why not?
Well, it's like, the way we look at it is like, hip hop as a culture, like, turntablism is a part of that culture. Like, so
Sure.
That's an instrument. We view that as an instrument, and we want to continue to support anybody that's doing that type of, or playing that instrument, for the sake of hip hop. So vinyls will be around forever. Plus, like, you can, just the feel of it, like, is, something interesting. So
it feels more
but
special.
outside that, yeah, but like turntablism is like a big part of it. Like if you notice, like Lord Mobb is like one of the few groups that really has like a lot of cuts on the stuff that we do. We still have a lot of like turntablism involved in what we do, and that's all thanks to like DJ Boogeyman, who's the DJ for Lord Mobb. Griselda's done it, like, through multiple tracks, like, with DJ Premier and stuff like that. But like we've definitely tried to make it a part of almost every album that we do, is to make sure that we have some type of like, cuts or scratching or turntablism, like, on the record, at least for me.
Yeah, it's a really interesting aspect of it. I had this conversation with a buddy a few days ago, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Like over the last few years, if you look at this movement as a whole, it's went away from cuts and in big aspect of it, right? Like you can talk about like kind of what became popular in the early 2010s, late 2000s, and the shit that ended up reaching commercial success. Sure, cuts were completely removed from that scene as well. But in the underground rap scene, cuts were very, very prominent, right? You had DJ groups like Snowgoons, for example, that were just absolutely killing that market. So groups like Army of the Pharaohs and Jedi Mind Tricks and Demigods and that whole scene that was coming up, they were like, it cuts on every single record, on every single track of every record, right? Like it was a very, very kind of authentic hip hop feeling, and they tried to cater to that sound, and that's what that sound was at that period of time. But as this new scene has developed, it's erased that kind of aspect of it in a lot of ways. You don't really hear a lot of cuts on a Griselda record, right? Like as you mentioned, like DJ Premier has a couple songs with Westside Gunn or Griselda, and then you'll end up getting that. But that's because he's DJ Premier, and there's a status symbol to that, right? Like you're not going to have Primo. You're not going to decline Primo, and then two, if you get Primo on a track, you want him to do his thing, right? You want him to make it his own thing because it's DJ Premier. But for the most part, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's interesting how things change kind of organically. Like I feel like it was a slow transition, but what we see now is this movement that it doesn't really embrace cuts at all. I think the music sounds dope without it, but yeah, you're right. I think Lord Mobb is one of those few that kind of keep that element in there, but doesn't step away too far from that sound. It's still the same sound. It's just your own kind of twist to it.
Yeah, like yeah, definitely.
Man, I want to get back to this new record here. So the new record, Viktor by JNX, and actually, how do you pronounce Jamil's full thing? Are we calling him JNX now, or what's the?
I call him JNX, or I call him Syph. But like his name is Jamil Naeem X.
Okay, yeah, I've seen him used to go by the Jamil Naeem X, and then now for this new record, I think it's just billed as JNX, but his Twitter handle or Instagram handle and all that is still the Syph. So I don't know. I've been a little bit confused because again, I'm new to this dude, but
Yeah, it's crazy. It is. There's a lot of names, but like JNX is the short hand for his name, so that's probably the best name.
Gotcha. So yeah, the new record with JNX, JNX Mephux, it's Viktor. It's out now. This album, like I said, from front to back, it's in my opinion, it's an easy contender for album of the year. It's definitely like I don't know, when was this released? Last week or this week? Recently, anyhow. I think last Friday, right? And it hasn't left rotation, and it's only been a week, but there's those albums that you hear that you can immediately identify that this is it. This is what is going to kind of stay in rotation long term. It's what I'm going to be looking back at the end of the year saying, when I'm kind of looking back and saying, wait, what are the albums that really define this year? I think this is definitely it. And I think at least for me, the hype that was associated with it as well, like, this was easily my most anticipated album as soon as I heard the Glory single. I love that song, and I was so excited to see what you guys would end up doing together as I was digging more and more into JNX's back catalog. But yeah, this album it's an easy contender for album of the year. If anyone's listening to this and they haven't given the album a listen yet, go and do your homework and listen to it, and then go check out the back catalogs of both of these artists. But wow, man, it's incredible.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, like it was a fun process for sure, and like you know, a lot of it comes down to the mixing and mastering portion of it. So I want to give a shout out to Sound Lord, who's sitting right over there. So come say hi.
Fair enough. Talk about your kind of production for this album. You said that whenever hello Sound Lord, say hello. You're not on video, you're only on audio, so say hello.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm the guy eating chicken in the Glory video. Okay, next.
Man, yeah, you did an excellent job on this project as well. Talk about, I guess, the direction going into this project. As I was speaking to Mephux, he mentioned that he kind of caters his beat selection to the artist that he's working with, right? These aren't just random beat packs that he's throwing around and tossing to any given artist. These are kind of catered to that specific artist and that sound. Talk about the direction going into this project and how you guys wanted this to sound, because I mentioned this earlier, but it's a different sound than what I've heard from at least from Mephux in the past. I'm not too familiar with your work specifically. I'm sure I've heard your work on a lot of shit, but I don't know what you're associated with.
Yeah, so Sound Lord, he did all the mixing and mastering for
Zaza Bang's album, Regressions. I did basically everything Mephux did after Pray for the Evil
too. Yeah. So like, yeah, he basically he did an amazing job. Like the thing is, like, you can have like really good beats and you can have really good lyrics and like, you know, a person with a really good voice, but like if you don't mix and master the projects properly, then it's all for nothing. Like it's like, you know, you have to take that part extremely seriously, because like it's like you have ingredients, and if you don't put them together correctly, like, you know, you could just like end up with something that's like terrible, but could had the like the potential to be great. um
Yeah, it's like the professionalism of the record. It's
yeah,
how you carry yourselves, right, as artists. You want it to sound good. You want it to be professional. Yeah, you want it to sound polished.
yeah. So yeah, the direction of the album, like there was really no direction at all. Like I said, like I sent the two first beats that I sent him were the Guns track with Ito and Winning. And then after that, like I kind of like, you know, I got lost like doing like a bunch of other projects and kind of forgot about it, but then came back to it. We all flew up, or had everybody fly up to Boston, and we worked out of my studio there, and that's where we kind of started to develop um you know, some more of the tracks, like 911 for example. Like we made that beat like that was made by me like on the spot, like right when we were recording. um you know, just because like we didn't have any other beats that were available. So uh I just cooked that one up on the spot, and then the Sound Lord mixed it, and then we just recorded that track.
Man,
uh
911's one of my favorite cuts off the record. Like, it's hard to pick a favorite sometimes. And again, because a lot of them, there's so much kind of variation between track to track to track. It's not the same thing throughout the entire album. But 911, easily one of my favorite songs off the album, I think. Like, it's just, as soon as it comes on, like I said, it tells a story in of itself. The instrumental, I think it's dope. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, so like really no direction, just made, you know, instrumentals that we thought, you know, had the same type of like, I guess, vibe. And then, you know, if he was into the beat, then we usually just like were like, fuck it, let's just use it. So it wasn't even like really looking for consistency in that, I guess, manner. It was more of just about making a few tracks that we loved on beats that I liked and he also liked. So
Talk about the Boston thing, because that's really interesting. I didn't know that you were originally from Boston. I didn't know you were in Boston.
yeah,
I
so I'm from Kansas. Like that's where I'm from, Kansas. But I moved to Boston a couple years ago, and have been living here for, you know, that amount of time.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's really interesting though to me, because when you think of this new movement and this new scene, and especially people like Lord, like that are in Lord Mobb, you kind of associate it with upstate New York. Upstate New York, let it be Rochester, Buffalo. These places are really kind of the epitome of this scene. You being in Boston right now, how far removed do you feel from this thing? Do you feel it difficult to kind of stay connected?
No, not at all. Like, I mean, the way the way that recording, mixing and mastering and everything is done nowadays, like you can do it in such a distributed fashion that like it doesn't really it doesn't really change anything. And it's like, unless there's some situation where the producer and the artist need to collaborate, like in really nail a particular type of sound and in a very particular type of flow, like maybe that would be a benefit. But like most cases, like it's not necessary. Like when you have a good artist that has a vision for the music that you produce, like they do their job and they do it very well, and you know, you have to do your job and do it very well, and then you always come out with something that sounds good. And so it's like, you know, being together like doesn't really even matter much. So yeah, I feel connected because like um
Well, a lot of it, I
I
imagine, is done
plus
online,
like
right?
Yeah, I say the thing is, I say all that, but then like I also, go to New York all the time, so I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know.
The actual scene in Boston. So, like, I'm fairly familiar with, I guess, the roots of the Boston scene. Let it be like Rex and I don't know, like just a lot of the shit that was going on kind of in the late '90s, early 2000s. Of course, you had underground hip hop storefront there, which kind of curated a scene of itself. But that's been closed down for a number of years. And again, I think in a lot of cases, as you said, the hip hop scene in general has kind of gravitated towards the online sphere and become less and less localized. In Boston, have you been able to kind of explore much of the local hip hop community that's happening right now? Is there much of one?
Um, I haven't had a chance to like really explore it all that much. There's like a few people that I know of. Like Rex, for example. I did a track with Rex before. Um,
There's Slain, Special Victims. I'm trying to think of like the other Boston cats. It's hard
yeah,
to think off the tip of my head top of my head, but there was a real active scene in Boston and Lawrence and just kind of in Massachusetts in general. But at a period of time, Boston was really really heavy. Like they had a lot of contenders.
yeah, yeah. No, no. I've always been into a very specific style of hip hop, so it's like I just gravitated like always to East Coast, like New York style hip hop. So
100%.
uh, I don't know, and like the crazy thing is like back to Boston for a second, like Guru's from Boston. Um,
Yeah.
Gangstar is like one of my is I can think probably my favorite rap group of all time. Uh, so
Yeah. Yeah. Rest in peace, Guru. Like the yeah, Gangstar's catalog is crazy. And what's crazy to me is like both of those dudes aren't from New York, right? They end up seeing New York later on in life, but
yeah,
Guru in Boston and where's Primo from? He's from the South anyway, like Louisiana or something, like
Houston.
Houston. Yeah, that's crazy to me that they end up going to New York and then they just become like so synonymous with that New York sound.
Yeah, well, it's like I don't know, like yeah,
So talk about some of the current work that you have coming up. So you have the new album with JNX, Victor. And again, for those listening at home, do yourself a favor, check out the album. It's fantastic. No lie, I'm not going to bullshit anyone. It's one of my favorite albums of the year easily, and it might be my favorite album of the year. It's just it only came out within the last couple weeks, and it's hard to make those value judgments so quick. But I know for sure it's going to be contender come the end of the year. So do yourself a favor and check the album out. And I know we're promoting that record in this call, so I want to make the focus for that album. But after this album, what do you have currently in the works? You seem to kind of consistently be busy. If there's one thing that's kind of constant with this scene is the consistency. It's album after album after album after album, and there's never really a period to hold your breath. Talk about what's currently coming up.
yeah. So I got a few things that I'm working on right now, and that Lord Mobb is working on. So we've got Ito's project, his first Lord Mobb project, A Long Way Home, dropping pretty soon, actually, like within like the next couple of days.
Oh wow.
Um, that's going to be an amazing project.
You're starting to cut
And
in and
then
out a little bit
after
here.
Ito, we've got TF. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Can you hear me?
I think so now. I think I can hear you. Yeah, continue.
Yeah. So we have the Ito project, his first Lord Mobb project, which, we're really excited about. And then after that, we've got TF.
He's on this
And
new album as well. He's on Victor too, and I hadn't heard of. Maybe I've heard TF before, but I definitely never heard of TF Project. and his feature off of Viktor is fantastic.
Yeah, he's a great artist. Like he does some cool stuff, and I'll play you a little bit of that. Like I'll give you a sneak preview of like his
Dope.
his upcoming album. But that album I'm actually co-producing with Rock Marciano. So he's doing 5 beats and I'm doing 5 beats.
Wow, what a good look. What a good look. Man, Rock Marciano is another one that's just like, well, he's also like Rock Marciano and I think Planet Asia as well. People don't really talk about Planet Asia in terms of this a lot, and they definitely give credit to Rock, but I think the two of them are really, really important in terms of bringing this movement from, I guess, the last era to this era of hip hop. They're like pioneers in of themselves, but they're crucial when you talk about how this movement came to be, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Man, so a new TF album with yourself and Rock Marciano on the beats. That's super exciting. When can we expect that?
That's gonna be probably towards the end of this month.
Oh man, again, just album after album after album after album. It's hard to keep up sometimes, but if you stay glued in, like, man, it's a good time to be alive.
Then we got then my next project after that is with Flea. So like Flea's doing and me are doing Pray for the Evil 3. That's gonna have features from Method Man, Fat Joe, Cormega, and I forget who else. UFO Thief, and then TF, and I think a few other people. But yeah, that album is going to be crazy too. So
that's crazy. The first two Pray for Evils, consistent replay. They're fantastic. And some of the features that you ended up listing off there. Wow, man, I'm so excited. The UFO Thief is one that I've kind of recently got into. He did the album with Big Ghost, and he has a new project out with Vanderslice, and I've went and done my homework and listened to his back catalog, and he's fantastic. The Method Man feature is really interesting, and I'm stoked for that. I love the work he did on Lemon, and I think pretty much everyone does, but his verse on Lemon was so good, and to think that he's kind of again tapped into the scene. I saw him on that Level Get You Killed tour with Redman and Method Man on stage with Conway, and it was so good to see kind of those legends paying kind of respect to this new wave in a lot of ways, and Flea was there too.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, so I mean, I guess what we can do now is like I'll give you a little sneak preview of each project. Well, for the Ito one, I'm not going to play the actual. I'm going to play the song, but this is a remix I did to the original. The original everybody will hear when the album drops, but this is actually a remix of that track. So that's that's a remix of a track that's going to be on Ito's new album.
The atmosphere that is always kind of brought whenever you listen to any kind of Ito project, to be honest, is just like impeccable. Like you instantly get transported into this scene, and his voice just works with it so well. His voice is like another instrument, and it's so like gritty and grimy, but so sincere and authentic. Like you believe every word he says. Oh man, I love him. That was a great track. That was a fantastic song.
Yeah, thank you. So next up is TF, the TF project. I'll play you a track from that upcoming project.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Just trying to make it make sense. I got it tatted on my back. That's who I blame, bitch. Kill.
That's one of the TF tracks.
Man, so that TF album, it's half produced by you, half produced by Rock Marciano. I assume that's one of the beats that are produced by you.
Yeah.
Man, I love the way that when it started off, I was expecting some kind of like some soulful type instrumental, and then when the beat ends up hitting, it's just this heaviness. And I don't think I've really heard that a lot, maybe ever, but the kind of this piano melody that has this kind of underlining soul, but and you expect it to almost go a different direction, but the heaviness of the drums really just kind of contrasts with that. Man, that's a really, really unique beat. I love it. And then the way that TF, like I said, I'm new to TF, but I heard his feature off of the JNX album, and I love the kind of the laid back delivery in a lot of ways, right? Like you can tell he's just comfortable, and it's effortless. Man, another great track. Thank you for playing these, and thank you for creating this art. I don't think I can say that enough, but like this whole movement and what you've done, like this is going to be music that I can listen to for the rest of my life. And the fact that so much material is coming out over the last few years, it's going to be like a life's journey to be able to go through and hear everything, and really sit with everything and kind of let it absorb. So thank you for contributing to this. This is beautiful music, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
So what's next? Is there something next, or are those the two?
I can keep playing stuff.
My selfishness tells me yes. Keep going.
All right, let's see. Hold on. Which other ones are cool to play? I like this one. Hold on.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's
man, the way the way that piano goes, it's like this twisted piano. Man, I love it. I love it. That was a hard track. That was I think the hardest of the three that you ended up playing. That was great.
Yeah. So,
man, okay, so to kind of wrap it up here. So again, JNX album, that's what we're promoting. Viktor, it's out on streaming platforms anyways as of now. And for those listening at home, do your homework, check it out. Furthermore, you end up having the new album with Ito coming out. You have a new album with TF coming out alongside Rock Marciano, of course. And what about a solo Mephux album? There was one that dropped a while back. What's the news on a new solo Mephux album?
Oh yeah, so there is like an instrumental album I'm working on. I don't know when that's gonna drop, but like,
okay,
I'm collecting like instrumentals for it now.
Gotcha. Man, thank you so much, man, for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Where can people find you? Where can people stay up to date with new music?
So like I post a lot of my stuff, and I post a lot of beats too that I do on Instagram. So at Mephux, or follow the Lord Mobb YouTube channel, for a lot of the stuff that we're working on. Yeah, I think that's probably the best place, or Twitter, like at Mephux on Twitter too.
Fair enough. Man, I would love to have you back on in the future whenever you do end up having new material surfacing that we can go into with some depth. Like I said, you're one of my favorite producers in the kind of current scene right now. Lord Mobb is definitely one of the rosters to pay attention to. And if you're familiar with the scene, you're already familiar with the brand. And the new album with JNX is one of my favorite projects of the year. So I'd love to have you back on in the future whenever you have new shit on the go.
Sure, of course. Yeah, it'd be my honor. My pleasure.
100%. All right, we can wrap things up there. Thank you once again, man. This has been a blast. I really enjoyed the conversation, and being able to go through things in a little bit more depth. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Take care.